Hello, everyone. Hey, Siddhant. Hey, Pradeep. Hi, everyone. How are you doing this evening? Where are you all joining from? I would love to know that. Do drop your answer in the chat. Cool. Yeah, so I'm going to quickly share my screen, or while we wait for a few more folks to join, I will quickly share my screen and just give me a second. Cool. I hope my screen is visible to you. Jayesh, can you give me a thumbs up if it's visible? Thank you.
Yep.
All right, everyone. So before we begin the session, I have this small presentation that I like to do to tell our audience about the community that we are building and a little bit about the session, what we are going to discuss, and everything else. The topic for today's discussion is how to make cybersecurity an enabler for engineering rather than a blocker. So this fireside chat is sponsored by the 403 Circle, powered by Astra Security. And the topics that we are going to touch upon today, first, why secure engineering is important for developers today. Then we will also dive deeper into the shift to continuous and integrated pen testing. Then how do engineers go about sprint planning with security without slowing down? Then we will also touch a bit on embedding threat modeling into your product specifications. Then hiring engineers with a security first mindset. And then last but a very important topic, how tailored security boosts engineering speed. Before I introduce you all to the speaker today, I would like to give you a quick walkthrough of the 403 Circle powered by Astra Security. So the 403 Circle is an invite-only Slack community of over 150 CTOs, CISOs, and similar tech leaders. We have some amazing tech leaders from companies like Microsoft, Xerox, Razorpay, and more. We run community initiatives and do events such as AMA sessions, city meetups, and expert-led sessions like the one that we are doing right now. And we do have a virtual community. Like I said, it's a Slack community. We do have several community channels where members can ask questions and share insights. As for Astra Security, at Astra, we are building a continuous pen test platform that helps over 700 companies continuously scan their infrastructure for security vulnerabilities. If you like to know more about Astra and the 403 Circle, I'm going to keep posting the link in the chat. So stay tuned. Well, time to meet the speaker for today's session. We have Jayesh Singh Chauhan. Jayesh is the founder at Cloudurance Security, and he's the former CISO at CoinSwitch, which is one of the leading crypto exchange in India. Just some housekeeping rules before we begin the Q&A session. We will begin by We will begin with a host-curated Q&A with Jayesh. I do have some really interesting set of questions. Then towards the end of the session, we will open the floor for audience Q&A. You can drop your questions in the Q&A chat. And as for the recording, the session is being recorded, and the recording will be made available post the event. So without further ado, let's begin the session. Hey, Jayesh, how are you doing?
Hey, hi Priya. Doing well. Thank you for asking, and thanks for having me here. How are things at your end?
All good, all good. All right. So before we begin before we begin, like I start firing you with a lot of questions. There is a very important question here that every CISO would like to know: are you a tea person or a coffee person?
Oh, yeah. So I've started the journey as a coffee person of I think a decade back. I've slowly migrated towards a tea person now, where I tinker with different types of tea. Yeah, I think that's what I've been doing lately.
Got it. Yeah, so let's dive right in by exploring the very first topic of the session, uh, which is why secure engineering has transitioned from being optional to absolutely essential. We've been seeing, modern developers being expected to have security in their DNA. Why has secure engineering become such a core skill for top developers today? What changes in the industry led to security moving from a nice to have to a fundamental part of a developer's skill set?
Got it. So I think if you look a decade back, we had like decade or a little more back, right? We security was more of a niche area, right? We uh there were a few pen testers, there were a few security folks, and they would find issues on their time. Some companies will have full-time security folks, some companies will have bug bounty, some folks would not just care about security, and they were more about let's build faster, right? What has, I believe, has changed is there has been a, a rapid growth in the number of security engineers, or at least companies who accept that security is one of the important horizontal rather to address. And like this is a biased opinion, but I genuinely believe a lot of companies moving to cloud played like a very pivotal and a crucial role, right? Uh, why I say that is because now your infrastructure had to adhere to your one second, there's something popped up on my screen. Sorry about that. Yeah. So now what was there was every in order to move faster, build faster, your infrastructure, you don't have to have a full-blown uh DevOps team, right? Or like a team which is maintaining your infrastructure. You can have an agile or very small team, and you could spin up infrastructure and move it at scale. That was what cloud enabled for folks, right? And with enablement of cloud and infrastructure, you ended up with more misconfigurations or issues which cloud had. You were dealing with the same issues. Now it was not about that. Someone with DevOps capability you just go and spin up systems. You need to take care of security of it as well, because then for example, like for identity and access management, you'll have to go with whichever cloud provider you're using. You would be using their identity and access management. If you've not provisioned it well, then you have gaps there. If you're using storage, now your storage are translated pretty much into S3 buckets, right? If for AWS, for Azure, you have blobs, etc. Then you have to make sure that your buckets are not public, your objects in that are not public. All of these issues kind of became a global issue because everyone started becoming like adapting cloud at a very high, faster pace. In parallel, you had like I think again a decade back, it was more about waterfall models. Then you kind of move towards agile model, which means I think Facebook was one of the first companies who were doing like 2 or 3 deployment in a day on production altogether, right? So companies adopted it, and which meant there were a lot many changes which were happening on a regular basis, which security, if you look at it, is abuse of functionality. That's how I believe it. And if you are regularly, rapidly building functionality or changing functionalities, then and if you don't have security process in place, then it's going to blow up. So cloud helped with the scale of things, and the agile model made it really fast. The whole concept of building, and that just led to more security issues. And in parallel, the awareness which I remember, I think 14, 15 years back when I started, there were very few security engineers. There were a handful of them. Now you have a big set of, like a big workforce around security as well, which is very neat to see. I think I'll give it, bug bounty programs have played a very high role. Companies being accepted, having a higher acceptance that, okay, there is going to be security issues. It's inevitable, but let's see whether we find it first before a malicious actor finds it first, right? So I believe it was a bunch of these things, but all of it came in together to make security as a very important horizontal, as I say again, because it intersects everything in terms of tech. And that's how, like, that's where we are. And these are exciting times. We are more safer and vulnerable at the same time because everyone knows more about how to get into systems relatively as well. So,
Yeah, perfect. Which brings us to a conclusion that good software engineering is secure engineering, right? And I think
yeah.
everyone now agrees with that. But with that comes a question about how can engineering leaders foster this mindset, where every developer thinks a little more and a little harder about security in their day-to-day work.
I think while there are multiple frameworks and mechanisms to do it, I believe a company's culture plays a very important role. If you are able to bring seriousness towards security, I think everyone has a different way of doing it. You can go via scare tactics as well. While I don't recommend them, you see every now and then companies who have got major hacks, and they've unfortunately few of them have went under as well because of this, right? But more importantly, it's about building that culture of we are going to build secure products, right? Why do we need to build it? I think it's simple. Um Either whether you like it or not, either via compliance or via security practices, issues are going to come up. Non-secure mechanisms or ways of operating are going to come up. And if your company, if your engineering team, they have they are building functionalities, they're building products, right? And if security is one of those reasons where they have to go and rewire or rework their product and re-architect it at times as well, right? And if you are going to go into this circle, then you're essentially not utilizing bandwidth of your engineering team well. So inculcating security from the get-go really helps you make things more seamless, because whether you like it or not, you can't escape security. Either you escape it long enough that it turns into a bigger breach,
Yeah.
or it finds you really faster so that you can iteratively build a bit build a better practice. So having good security practice, good security engineers is always going to be a key. How do you build that is going to be culture. How do you build that culture? It's always going to be the folks you are engaging with in terms of security, right? If they really are guiding you, not just pointing. Security work a lot of time becomes about a security team. If you really see, they would engineering team would look at them as people who are just pointing out problems, right? And that's what the work turns out to be. But a good security engineering team enables, or good security leadership as well enables engineering team by actually sitting with them and making them understand that, okay, these are the issues which are there, what we need to fix, how we need to fix. If the solutions which or remediation which we are recommending, if they are not uh, if they're not good enough for the product right now, because they end up making product a bit unoptimized, right? Or the user experience goes for a toss. Good security engineers or engineering team or leadership team can enable your development or engineering team better by finding ingenious solutions, right? And because they are right part of the ecosystem, they can make it sound a little more seamless as they go through practice. over the year, because more context of the organization, more context of how the organization operates, everything would kind of come in together. So yeah, having good engineers, security savvy engineers, it's just about selling it to them that, hey, if you build secure product right now, it's easier. We would not have to come back to you for the same thing, and you don't have to re-architecture the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I think, in my experience, that sales pitch has worked more or less.
Mm. Yeah. And building on the idea of embedding security into development, you know, I would like to shift our focus to a practice that's evolving rapidly now, since it's one of the integral parts of cybersecurity in today's world, which is
Mhm.
pen testing, right? Uh, the pen testing that we know of used to be a sporadic, check the box exercise, right? Now we hear about it becoming a continuous integrated process. How are companies shifting from these ad hoc pen test checks to continuous pen testing? And why is this shift happening? For example, some in the industry argue that one-off pen tests just don't cut it anymore, and that every new feature should be tested for vulnerabilities before it hits the production, right? What is your take on this evolution?
I think the shift is good. The shift was inevitable as well, because as I said earlier, security is abuse of functionality, and I think this is something. If the more you dig into security, uh, these these words would start making more and more sense, that it's abuse of functionality, right? That's what it is. And with the agile teams, fast-paced development, what we are doing is we're building a lot of functionality in a very small period of time. Earlier, one of the like a company I used to work for, or I think 12 years back, right? These development cycle of going anything new out there was 3 months, and this is one of the one of the better companies out there. We had FQA cycle, we had regression testing, we had security testing, and in 3 months we'll have like a big release which will come through. The that fact doesn't isn't there anymore, right? We have more functionalities being rolling out. So if you are doing pen tests once a year, you have so many things which you have put out there, and because they've not been tested, they are vulnerable. It's essentially right. And another thing to note is, when you are doing fast-paced development, human error is going to be inevitable. You're going to make mistakes while developing product. Right now, you can have secure developers in place, but you can't discount that humans will not end up making errors. This is where your pen testing comes in, right? So having better frequency of pen testing is purely proportional to the amount of code or functionalities which is being shipped on a regular basis.
Mhm.
And also another piece which I think a lot of we don't it doesn't occur to us straight away, is that companies are so agile that sometimes the product also pivots heavily in the 6 to 9 months period, right? So what you're pen testing, uh, so you have surface level or cross-fitting pen testing is very different from real pen testing. Now, you can have very little context. You can come in, you can scope the application, and you can get it done, right? But in order to, the more context you get about the organization, the functionality, the more nitty-gritties you know about, okay, what the small little button or the small little feature does, you get deeper into it and you realize a lot of time abuses are sitting there, right? And all of that can only happen when there is a regular cadence of knowing what the company is building. And as if you look at it in 6 9 months, products pivot, companies pivot, right? A lot of times. Then if you're doing a 1 year pen testing cycle, it's just a very far-fetched dream that you're going to find everything. Whereas continuous pen testing cycles just make sure that you are robustly testing for everything, and after a while, the same major functionalities don't change a lot, but there are nitty-gritties which will change, and that's where vulnerabilities are sitting a lot of times, and that's gold for any pen tester. So keeping up pace with how the product is moving, having more context to it adds better pen testing results. And the other side of it is that the external researchers are anyways digging deeper into every company out there, because I don't know whether folks might be aware of this or not. If you don't have a bug bounty program, pen testers or external testers have already found issues, and they've kept it in the kitty. The moment you come out with a bug bounty program, that's when you'll see like a lot of things which will come into your plate, right? So the external pressure, pressure is not the right word, but external cadence of folks going and testing it, right, kind of keeps you up on your toe. And the general legacy pen test ways will never find those issues which these external bug bounty hunters are so used to finding these ingenious issues, right? So yeah, that's why I think continuous pen testing and more context-driven pen testing is required.
Interesting insight. And we do have a very important question here. I don't know the name of the person. It's an anonymous question. If you would like to take it up now, or maybe we can take, yeah. Are there any specific open source tools or quick wins you would recommend to start integrating continuous pen testing into our CI/CD pipeline? Yeah.
I think let me talk about the process part first, right? Having a checkpoint that, okay, this is where my code, non-pen tested code has been getting shipped, right? Keeping a structure of, okay, this is where my last pen test happened, and rest everything which comes like beyond it has to be tested. That kind of gives you a gauging, it gives you a good gauge, right? That what needs to be pen tested. So that's one side of it. From a CI/CD integration perspective, there are open sources, like while, for example, SemGrep has their own paid version as well. But you make sure that, okay, there are open source areas as well where SemGrep is pretty good with it. And community folks have also provided plugins around it, right? Or something which you can seamlessly integrate into your CI/CD pipeline. What it does is any new code which is getting shipped, it will do a scan of the code, right? OWASP also has a free project around it, which will look for third-party libraries, right? In parallel, excuse me, you can integrate from an infrastructure perspective. A lot of people are on containers and Kubernetes, right? There are open source tools like Claire or Anchor, which can help you scan your images well, like container images. For Kubernetes, there are KubeBench, which does a really good like benchmarking for Kubernetes cluster. So you have to not just look from code perspective, you have to look from infra perspective as well. In parallel, if you're using AWS, Get Secrets is a like AWS based open source tool, which will look for whether if you're shipping secret or secret credentials, secret keys, etc., or sensitive keys along with your code, right? You should be using a vault. So that's one other like area to look into. Similarly, if you're worried about Slack tokens or Twilio, etc., which has been passed on, Git leaks is there. Git leaks is very interesting. You can put your own registers into it as well. So you cover your code scanning. You make sure that you're pen testing, like till when it was done, and anything after that has to be pen tested well, whatever your frequency is. From a CI/CD perspective, you have your infrastructure to take care of. You have your code base to be scanned, your open source libraries to be scanned. Your code should not be shipping secrets. And I think that I'm missing one more thing. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. If there's one more thing I'm missing, I'll get back to you on that.
Yeah, sure. I think that was such a comprehensive list. I'm going to turn this into a video snippet and post it on LinkedIn for sure, and within our the 403 Circle community. Yeah, wonderful. All right, so I'm going to go off topic a little bit, and so this is a rapid fire round that our CEO, I'm going to like shout out his name, Shikhil Sharma. He came up with this idea of doing a rapid fire round, and we all really liked it, and we thought of continuing it for all our upcoming webinars as well. So
Mhm.
I'm going to ask you a bunch of rapid fire questions, and you have to answer. You have to give your best or your worst answer.
Sure.
Yeah. So, what keeps you up at night as a CISO?
Knowing, I think it keeps you up at night that you are looking at so many different areas that things can go wrong, right? Uh, but I don't think like it. There is no end to that. How long you want to stay up night, right? But there is a real realization that you bank a lot on the process and the ownership you've created across the org. And if that works, then you sleep better at night. If that starts failing on a regular basis, then you kind of take those cues and build the processes better, right? And enroll people better. But yeah, I think it's every CISO's nightmare that you're gonna get. You might get a call that hey, things are not working well. There is a breach, and then you have to get into the root cause analysis of it. Yeah. Priya, I'll add the piece which I was missing, right?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
From an open source perspective, there are quite a few open source to do your cloud security posture management. Don't forget to not do it, right? It might not be part of the CI/CD. You can integrate some of them as CI/CD, but make sure that you're scanning it on a periodic basis. If not via CI/CD, but there are quite a few open source tools. I myself have written one, but I stopped developing it after 2021. But Cloud Security Suite has been there, which I presented in quite a few black hats. Crawler does a beautiful job. Scout Suites are there. Scout Suite is there. Cloud Query, Steampipe, they help you gauge inventory of it. But yeah, I wanted to make sure that while folks are doing CI/CD, you're not forgetting cloud security posture management, right? If you're on cloud.
Absolutely. Um, Amazing.
Mm,
So yeah, I'll continue with the rapid
yes.
fire round.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. So, what was your first email?
Email ID or
Email
email
ID.
body?
Yeah,
I
anything
don't
valid.
think I'm gonna. But I got a bunch of letters. I'll tell you the story behind it. I was gonna like any nascent computer guy. I was like, hey, I'm gonna put my name. I'm gonna figure something out with my name. But it kept saying that hey, that email already has been taken. I steadily started taking out letters out of that email, right? Like I'm like, okay, let me remove one letter at a time and see if the system says that I have that email available. And I was able to find an email which doesn't look like my name at all. But it in hindsight, it works as a security because no one knows about that email. So
Got it. Yeah, so you don't use it anymore.
no, I use it, but for very specific purpose. It's a
Got
very personal email now.
it. Yeah. So, what does a day look like in the life of a CISO?
It is. That's this question I've been asked earlier also. What and I think it's a very intriguing question because a lot of folks have very different answers to it, right? Uh, I think for me, it is always about it depends. Now that I'm working as a consultant, I the fire is brought to me in general that okay, this is the fire. Can you help put it out, right? But if you are working as a full-time CISO, then it's more about how to keep the wheel running in a smoother fashion, right? And I think the first thing which comes to address always is there are a lot of approvals which are there in your bucket, and they would not move if you've not approved it, right? Then there are some client requests which or some enablement requests. Okay, this is what we are trying to do, or compliance, etc. Those issues generally come up. You never forget to check on your team because I genuinely believe security is all about ownership. It's not a skill game. It obviously to a degree it's a skill game, right? But it's about whether your leads, your engineers, your managers, your security lead, security engineer, security manager are ready to take that extra mile of owning it, that hey, this is my product. I am going to make sure that it's going to be it's going to work smoothly. It's not going to have security issues. I'm not going to be the one who's going to actively block releases because there is a security issue. I would rather chase it and try to figure that out. But all of that takes mental strength, and checking on your team really is helpful on a regular basis, right? And Also making sure that they are having breathing time. Sometimes this is, I think, a problem with every good security engineer. They would take up more work than they can deliver. And they'll be like, okay, and they're enthusiastic about it as well. So I think sometimes it also involves teaching them how to say no also, right? So taking care of team on a regular basis becomes a huge win. And also talking to your other stakeholders, right? What's going to come in pipeline, where the business is heading, whether like yeah, where the business is heading, what are the new stuff we're tinkering with. As a CISO, what it helps is you can give your team a heads up, or your leads or your manager a heads up before even like BRDs are getting formed, right? Like, and the BRDs turn into PRD, etc. But you can give a heads up ahead of time. Yeah, and I think at some point everyone starts meditating, right? Because I think that is a good denominator for everyone to have, right? And I think the same goes for if I'm operating as a virtual CISO also. It's the conversation always starts with how's everyone doing? Is there something someone is struggling with? Because when you say about ownership, I think there's another piece which leaders also look into, is that every day is not similar for everyone. And if you as a leader are able to gauge that someone is having a bad day, you can gauge their ownership level also at that point, right? And you can support them rather on that front. And that translates into doing security with a limited number of people. It kind of enables people well. Otherwise, you can have an army to do security and not really reach anywhere, right? So yeah, and the same goes for, as I said, virtual CISO also. You have to start with what are the problems you're facing with, where the team is regularly checking on the cadence. And if someone is not doing well, you kind of figure out a way for how someone else can step in, or can the work be pushed rather than just pushing through and getting it done. Because while it can get done, if there is no ownership around it, it's going to backfire at some point.
Yeah, got it. That's a really good piece of advice and insights you have shared. Uh, we just so my next question was, when you're not working, how do you de-stress? And you mentioned meditating. So is that something that you do to de-stress yourself?
Uh, it has helped me. And I think due to a lot of travel coming in, I've taken refuge in excuses for the last 6 months that I've not meditated really regularly there. But it's a fabulous tool. But yeah, something which, while I've kind of turned it into another thing I've picked up. Oh, by the way, before that, driving always is something which is very therapeutic to me. I just take my car out and I drive, because I've been doing this for a very long while and I love traveling around it, and driving. So that helps. And I've recently picked up golf. That has helped out a lot, purely because if you're thinking too many things while making a swing, you miss it. So you have to be very empty-headed to make a good swing, and that's been another area which I've tinkered with, and it's been fairly rewarding. So,
Got it. Perfect. So with that, I think the rapid fire round is over. And so far, we have discussed about why secure engineering is important, and also the idea of embedding security into your development, um, and also for how uh, like pen testing has changed and has become a continuous and integrated process. Uh, now, uh, there's a great analogy from an article, that compares rushing development without security to racing down a highway in a car that's still being built, right? And realizing the brakes haven't been installed. It captures the risk of leaving security as an afterthought. How can agile teams plan their sprints with security in mind without losing development speed? Because you know some developers or product managers, they show worry that it might slow the team down, right? So how would you get how does a security leader get everyone on board with the security first approach?
Uh, I think I touched a bit upon it, but let me elaborate further. A security leader in sync with other stakeholders of the business plays a very important role, purely because you'll have your business team who's planning on where the new stuff, like where we should build next, what we should grow into, right? And then engineering team supports it. And then the product is shipped out, and then there is marketing team which will do marketing around it. There's a lot of other, like depending on whether you're B2C, different kind of marketing, B2B, different, etc. So security leader being plugged into right from the get-go where your business is heading. That's gonna play a massive role into how your security team is taken care and how your engineering team is enabled as well around security. Anything new which comes in, a business requirement document comes into picture, you kind of, you as a security leader can not just watch at it play out. You can rather ask the right questions. What kind of industry we are tinkering into, right? Sometimes, like, while a lot of folks might know CoinSwitch, but we had a fintech offering as well, right? Which was Lemon. So that was a different pivot, like a different product altogether. Before that, I was with Sprinkler for B2B. I've worked for PayPal as well. So every industry is different. As a security leader, you can ask what kind of compliance I have to adhere to, what kind of users which are going to come and use it, right? That also plays a very different kind of role altogether in terms of security. Then B2B, B2C, etc., all of that is there. And then you kind of pass it along as the business is agreeing upon that this has to be built, right? And when engineering teams are coming across, you kind of plug your security engineers into it, into the whole process, right? Or you plug someone with a security mindset. If you don't have security engineer, then you are the one who's going to sit into it and go through that mindset, right? And you do threat modeling. You ask the right question. I think a lot of security is around asking the right questions. It's about why are we building this? What it's going to attain? Then it kind of gives you the whole scope of what type of users, what scale at which it will operate, what is going to be underlying infrastructure, what's going to be the type of code or framework or technology stack which is going to be used, right? So all of this, if you are not aiming this from the get-go, right, then it becomes a reactive journey. Then you are greeted with a product which engineering team comes in that, hey, in the release X.Y, we are going to ship this. And then you need to pen test it. You have no context. You are as good as an external bug bounty hunter when you're kind of looking at it, right? You would ask development team that, hey, I need a walkthrough of it, but the product would be developed by 15 different developers. You would not get a full walkthrough, and then you will run into those problem statements. So if it is trickling down from a security leader, it is from the business requirement itself, then it's just a relatively easier journey. Then it's about how do we address that? This is going to come in. Let's put it into our calendar where we're heading towards it. So this kind of helps you gauge things well, right? And as a security leader, you are operating more as an enabler rather a person who's making sure that the ship is sailing, right? If you are just approaching security from a concept that the ship is sailing, which can be true for engineering, right? Which can be true for development, that okay, my product works, right? It gives the intended result, but security doesn't operate that way. So
Yeah.
it's very important for a leader to play that role. I think yours was a two-part question, right? Or have I answered the whole thing?
Yeah. Yeah,
Did I
you
miss anything in your question?
uh just give me a second. Yeah, so my question was like when um like when you try to introduce security into sprints, like people like tech teams especially might think that it will slow the team down. So yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So another piece into that, yeah, I was thinking I'm missing something. Thank you for that. Another piece into that is there are a couple of ways to bring more agility to your sprints from a security standpoint. Security champion program is one of the known things out there where you kind of have one person as your spokesperson from a development side itself. That has been really helpful. And I have a little bit of another style, which I think a lot of people use, where I assign one engineer, at least one engineer or a lead or a manager, whatever it is, to a particular product altogether. And that person owns security for me for that particular product. He's the CISO, he's the head of security, and he's the engineer for that particular product, right? Like he or she. And that has made sure that agility stays intact, and you can go as granular as possible. You can have one product, one big product, which is branched into 5 different sub-product, right? You can have engineers around it or security champions around it, right? And you iteratively train them as well, who essentially security champions are essentially people who turn into very nice secure developers of yours, right? And that also helps well in the journey of keeping it agile, enabling it at the same time, and not hampering the pace of the development.
Yeah. I heard you mentioning about threat modeling, right?
Yep.
Like for teams who are new to formal threat modeling, how would you suggest they get started? Are there any frameworks or templates to include in their PRDs so that potential threats are identified and addressed during the design phase itself? Also, how do you make this process accessible to all stakeholders, be it product, engineering, and security, without overcomplicating the PRD?
Got it. Yeah. So there are many frameworks which are out there, including Nests of the world and OWASP for the world, right? You can always pick one if that works, right? And frameworks are important to get things done. I believe more in training or hiring good security engineers who use their own model, doesn't matter, right? But are able to gauge security well. There are two ways to it. Either you hire well. When you're hiring, you ask the right set of questions, you ask the right threat modeling kind of question, right? About how you would do it, or you can sit and train them, right? Either options are fine. There's nothing wrong with it, right? From a threat modeling perspective, I said, as like rather than PRD, let's start from the business requirement document, BRD altogether, right? Of how we start the journey. Now, depending on what is going to be the user base, you get to define security well. You can't have I think this is where a lot of folks struggle also. They think a type of vulnerability which has always been critical will always stay critical. That's not the case in general, right? I believe it has to have the context of the product, which involves how the functionality is, how the user base is, what kind of user base is, and then you can gauge the criticality well. For me, I have a very simple framework which I've been using for a while, it's stupidly simple. Ease of exploitability and the impact. Simple as it is. If it's easy to exploit, it becomes a little severe. If it has a major impact, no matter how hard it is to exploit, it is a severe issue, right? And everything kind of falls in between that, like in between these two pillars. So you set that baseline, okay? What kind of like it takes a bit of journey to understand what goes as critical, what doesn't, and you start building the. 1 second, something else popped up. Sorry about that. You start building your practices accordingly, right? And where was I with this? Yeah, you from the leadership perspective, you have the business requirement, understanding the user base, etc. And then you went towards like you go towards the engineering side, where your threat model comes into picture, right? Threat modeling can be like there's another a simple framework, not framework, but simple ways to approach threat modeling. What's my exposure, right? Exposure plays a very important role, which kind of translates into user base, right? Uh, what am I developing? What kind of data has been ingested? What kind of data moves? Is that payment data? Does that adhere to any kind of compliance which I have in place, right? If it is a payment related thing, right, then even a medium severity issue becomes a high, right? That's where you have to gauge things well again. Uh, the the threshold of how I would make sure that a release goes live also or not is like changes depending on the functionality altogether, right? You as a leader or as a senior person in the organization, you have to define those roles, right? Because the frameworks were written, whatever Nest, etc., were written by to get the general, like to give you a head start, to give you a baseline to work with. But it doesn't mean that you can't tweak it. You have to tweak it well to cater it to your organization. If you don't do that, what's going to happen is, just because it says a high issue in its like nascent self, you would push your development team to go and fix it, right? And at the end of the day, it may not actually have a lot of impact because there is a compensating control or the user base is different, and it actually translates into a medium or a low issue. But what we forget a lot of time is this builds friction between engineering and security team. If there's friction on a regular basis, that at some point, and I think a lot of people will resonate on that, every security team has a plethora of backlogs in their system. They're like, hey, I have this bunch of things which I want to fix, and new stuff is still coming in, right? So making that process seamless, the only way is when you keep adding context of the organization. And another beautiful thing which has worked really well is you sit with the developers or the engineering leaders and you explain them what's the impact. When you use the ease of exploitability and impact as a framework, you kind of show them that, okay, this is how easy it is to do, and that's why we should fix it. Or while it's hard to do, the impact is so crazy that our business can go for a toss, right? When you do that journey with them, you're not the entity which they want to reject or avoid. You become an entity where it starts making sense to them that, okay, this is needed because this would hamper the business. This would make my product look flawed. Engineering team loves their product because that's how you end up with beautiful products. So you tell them that we are still building a beautiful product, we're just making it a little more secure with all of these analysis, and it enables them well.
Yeah, that was really great. And you talked about like we talked about making security part of our processes, right? And with that, it's also equally important to make security part of the team's culture through hiring, right?
Mhm.
Talked a lot about security, how we can build a security first culture, but like how can organizations realistically reach those goals? I mean, does it mean hiring dedicated application security specialists into engineering teams, or upskilling existing developers, or something else? Also, when you're interviewing such candidates, what should you or a security leader look for to identify a security first engineer? Do you also have any favorite interview questions or scenarios that may reveal a strong security mindset?
Got it. You're talking about hiring security engineers or hiring developers? I believe
Hiring
security engineers.
developers.
Developers.
Developers
Okay.
and yeah, developers.
Okay. I think developers, I think, would may or may not stay in the security leaders realm, right? But having an understanding, like, I think, yeah, it's just about whether you can hire, like the person who's building code, or building product, are they uh, how savvy they are towards security, right? And what they are building, do they really want it to be secure or not, right? But I would like to think that security folks who are worried about security, right, may not play a very integral role in hiring the security folks there, right? Like hiring the developers who are security savvy, right? You can have one or two round, like one round at best, I believe. But how you can, from a if you're planning to hire security engineers, right? That's where I might have a better insight, which I can pass on. Is that for me, hiring security engineers is always going to be about how much ownership that person has, and I genuinely go into life stories. And I ask about, how did you find your first hack? How did you pivot through it? How did you what got you to find that? right? And I think skills is something you can develop. This might actually be true for hiring developers as well who are security savvy, but I can give you my sense on how to hire security engineers, right? Skills you can build it tomorrow, right? If you have the right mindset, it's about enabling, doing right learning, giving right guidance. But ownership is something which you can't build. It takes like you can build it, just takes a lot of time to build it. And I believe every security engineers is a any good security engineer, you will see a heavy level of ownership with them, which is I am owning this product or I have pen tested it, you will not find a new bug into it, right? And if there is, they would move the world to make sure that gap doesn't happen again, right? And they're in it to make the whole thing secure rather than one-upping the developers. This is another issue which security engineers sadly happens sometimes, where they're like, hey, you build a good code, but I'm able to find a bug in your code, right? I'm like, you don't have to be that uptight about it. It's okay. Like things can come up, right? But let's build this better. That's and make it more secure. That kind of helps. So having the right attitude defines a good security engineer. It might be true for good secure developers as well, but I've not spent a lot of time hiring developers who are security savvy, but I've rather helped out engineering leaders on what to look for, right? And those are generally list of things that, okay, they should have fixed certain issues, etc. However, we work towards building security champions. That's where I think as a security leader, you end up building security into a lot of developers. And security champion program is something I've spent my time doing it, and it's been really helpful in building good code and secure code.
Oh, wow. Can you tell me more, like tell us more about the security champion program? How does
Okay.
it work?
Okay. This would be a bit of a scenic route. Okay. Uh, you come up, let's start with the story with backlogs. You have a lot of backlogs wishes and you keep finding new ones, right? Uh, you tell developers to like engineering leaders that or the product managers that hey, this needs to be fixed, and developers will look for okay XSS. Very simple example, this is the payload script, alert script or whatever is giving XSS, right? The simplest payload out there. And when you give it to the developers, they're like, okay, I have a blacklisted script and XSS will not come up again, right? And then someone uses IMGSRC or like a different payload and it works again, right? So this whole back and forth takes a lot of time. Security Champion Program is a very neat concept. I came across it around 12 years back when I was in PayPal and we were building Security Champion Program. I was an engineer at that time, security engineer at that time. But you can have one person assigned in every dev team who is and it can be nomination based or like they can enroll as well. You have to start the process and send the outreach to your entire organization, and these folks become your go-to person for anything security in that team. That doesn't mean they're security engineers, that doesn't mean they're pen testers. They're developers who are interested about security. Now what your team does is you actually have periodic sessions or set up some time with them to get them educated about security, how while also pushing them towards how to fix security issues. Now you have a spokesperson in every team out there, and in parallel, any security issue which comes in, you have someone as a connect, like a direct connect. And if they've enrolled out of interest that they were interested in security, they are eager to learn more. And this way, it becomes a very cohesive environment altogether where if X team has security issues, I'm going to pass it to that. My team is going to pass it to that guy. He's interested about it. And in parallel, one important thing to note with their leader, as a security leader, I have to set the cadence that hey, if security issues are there, or sometimes it is like about 50% of your of this person's bandwidth is going to be about security. What that does is anytime like the world is breaking down for them, but when security issue comes in, this person takes it over priority. So the backlog never becomes crazy. Slowly and steadily, it starts reducing, and you get to a zero state altogether. And the person is inclined towards the learning. Your team is also inclined towards teaching them well because that person is actually taking away some frustration away from, like frustration away from your security team, right? So it becomes a very beautiful cohesive environment if done well. So yeah.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. Thanks for sharing that. That brings us to the end of the Q&A session. We do
So
have a few questions in the chat and the Q&A section. We have a question by Praveen.
sure.
I think to bring the culture shift, acceptance mindset is necessary. How do we bring that mindset with engineering leaders who have been running the show for some more time and they think to bring anything new is not necessary?
Depends on, now there is like, obviously, if there was a silver bullet to security, we would have taken it already, but it's a more customized approach. If you're a B2B firm, it's a different story. If you're a B2C firm, it's a different story. B2B, most probably your client will kind of bring you into that whole structure where they'll be like, hey, we need an X level of security, X level of compliance, and let's get us there. When that is coming across, you have to make sure that you're not just doing it on a cosmetic level. You're actually doing it on the real needed security level, right? And that's where it always involves you taking a stand towards security. That, hey, I can't sign off on this. And when you're still asked to push a product which is not crossed the security level for you, some of the easier ways is that just accept it as a business risk. Just tell the engineering guy, like engineering manager, that let's accept it as a business risk. I can't take mediocre security fixes as the way it is. For a B2C firm, it's a different story altogether because B2C, you have bug bounties, you have external exposure to the whole ecosystem itself, and we all of us know there are too many companies out there who went under because they had a security breach or have incurred massive loss, right? And the more and it's going to be inevitable. Whether time is the only variable there. So bringing all of that understanding and enrollment of the leaders really helps out, which essentially means you got to be really good at enrolling people and explaining them. Sometimes being in their shoes and thinking about it really helps, right? And I think that's where a lot of gold you discover and you find solutions.
Yeah, fantastic. Praveen, I hope that answered your question. We have another question. Any tips on how we can quantify or showcase the value of security tasks in our agile sprints?
Uh, have different severities in place. This is always going to be a little tricky because no one praises when you have stopped malicious actors, but everyone complains when someone gets through, right? But having different severities in place regularly shows, okay, what kind of severity levels you've fixed and why your bandwidth has been used, but also incorporating it with regular security sessions in the organization. That really helps because then you can showcase, have some workshops also, right? To showcase that, okay, and the workshop purely based on the stuff you found in your product. And then you can relate it to your dev team or your DevOps team, etc. That this was the issue, this is how it was exploited, and we have saved them, right? Like, or rather, we have fixed it. That kind of translates psychologically better in every engineering team's head that, okay, this was actually a genuine issue and this was the extent of it. And we're glad that we were able to fix it. While our security team pointed out, we were able to fix it. These kind of small nudges and processes kind of helps build a better culture. And then your severities, your issues are actually regarded well. Otherwise, it'd just be like, I fixed 10 issues, no one gives a damn, right? But understanding what type of issues are most of the time related to sessions and explaining well to engineering leaders or developers.
Perfect. Now I have a question to ask you. If you could go back to your first 90 days in a CISO role, what advice would you give to yourself?
Um,
That's a
I
trick.
think I might have a lot of philosophical advice, but let me be very real with it. It's a new environment, it's a new ecosystem, it's a new company with new culture. It will take time to figure out. Enrollment in any conversation becomes your best friend because you're able to tell your side of the story to the other person then and explain why you're doing what you're doing. And then frameworks just enables you. The framework can be, you don't have to be very nitpicky about frameworks which are there, which are put out there by the world. You can have your own frameworks and you can call it that this is a framework which works for X company, or this is a framework which works for Priya or Jayesh. That's it, right? And take it, your initial days are about securing anything is more like as a pen tester when you go in and try to find vulnerabilities or issues into an application, you first do reconnaissance, right? You kind of look at how the application operates, how the functionality works. Similarly, you kind of look at the organization in a similar pane of glass, that how does the organization operates, how does what kind of people have built this organization. And then you just find out, you don't localize your hacking skills just to tech. You kind of bring it to people as well, where you find win-win, not just win-lose, and ingest it, find your ways, and you'll be able to really do it well, as long as you have the ownership of that. I'm here to make security better. It just does the job.
Yeah. It's all about the ownership. Yeah,
There's no other way to do security.
yeah, perfect. We actually like rolled out a poll.
Mhm.
If security and engineering were roommates, their relationship would be. And there is a tie between sibling rivalry and frenemies with a 28% votes. What do you think about that? And the third option is best friends.
I believe sibling rivalry is a better way to put it, right? Where both of you are competing towards that. Hey, listen to me, right? And more often than not, your founders become your parents. That, hey, listen to me, I want to do this well, and all of that. But I think at the end of the day, I doubt any engineering leader would say that security is not doing, like, security is just a burden, right? It would always be a nuisance, like a sibling, right? Whether young or older, that's a different story. But and the same goes for security team as well. While they may complain about developers and engineering's not spending time well. But if you really look into their world, they have crazy timelines, crazy deadlines to build a product which should work and people can use it as well, right? So yeah, they're in it together. They just don't. It's just a rivalry that do my thing first. That's what it is.
Yeah, thanks for answering that. Yeah, it's 9:03. We are 3 minutes over our time. Yeah, with that, I think we can close the session. There is one last question, if you want to take it up,
So
if you don't mind. Did you face any pushback or resistance from developers when moving from occasional pen tests to a continuous model? And if so, how did you handle that?
the blunt answer is it was not an option which was given. I'm like, hey, we have to do this. But the more detailed answer is I'd actually it's always about having enrollment conversation with your leaders. Your developers are there to do the work, right? Their leaders are there to guide them on what needs more focus or efforts around it. So if you are able to do that enrollment conversation, and sometimes enrollment conversations are very simple. It's about being very honest about that we are in this together. I can't do this journey alone. You can't do this journey alone, right? Let's just figure out a way to do this together, and why we should do it and how we can do it. And then it just becomes a little easier.
Perfect. I hope that answered your question. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jayesh, for agreeing to do this, making the time to do the session. It was great chatting with you, and thanks everyone for participating, asking questions, and joining the event. With that, we can close the session now. Jayesh, any closing thoughts before we end?
I think thanks for having me to this, like getting me here. This was a pleasure, and I loved discussing different points and different Q&As which were there in place. I don't think there is security is rocket science. Own it, deliver it, be open to finding new ways, and that's how you can like you can find ways, and you actually come up with ingenious solution. That's the beauty of it. One of the reasons I started my own consultancy was because I'm like, hey, I need multiple problem statements at the same time. It might be fun actually, and different industries bring you there. So it's not industry dependent. It's about how you own it, how you walk it, and I think if you add a touch of grace, it just makes you go long. That's it.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jayesh. With that, we will close the session now. Thanks everyone again. Hope to see you soon. We do these events once a month. So yeah, stay tuned. Thanks everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you, folks. Have a good night. Bye bye.